The scanners aboard the Galactic Council's exploration vessel Starweaver beeped urgently. Officer Blue, a tall being with silvery skin and large eyes, stared at the readings in disbelief. His four-fingered hand trembled as he rechecked the numbers. "High Commander," he called out, his voice shaking. "You need to see this." High Commander Green floated across the bridge, his lightweight body barely affected by the ship's artificial gravity. The readings on the screen made his purple eyes widen. "This can't be right," he whispered. "Run the scan again." The results came back the same. The third planet of this yellow star showed impossible readings. The gravity was crushing, nearly twice what most Council species could survive. The temperature swings were deadly, ranging from freezing to scorching. The atmosphere contained corrosive oxygen in lethal amounts. Worse still, the planet experienced extreme weather patterns, tectonic activity, and dangerous levels of radiation from its sun. "It's a Class 12 death world," Officer Blue confirmed. "The highest classification we've ever recorded." But that wasn't what shocked them most. The scanner showed clear signs of advanced civilization. Cities dotted the planet's surface. Satellites orbited above. Radio signals filled the space around it. "Impossible," High Commander Green muttered. "Nothing could evolve to sentience in such conditions." Yet as they watched, they detected thousands of aircraft moving through the toxic atmosphere. Millions of ground vehicles traversed the high-gravity surface. Billions of life signs showed beings going about their lives in these lethal conditions. The Council's first contact protocols were clear. Green sent the standard greeting message, expecting no response from what must be heavily shielded bunkers where these beings surely hid from their hostile environment. The response came within hours, not just a message, but a request for face-to-face meeting. The beings, who called themselves humans, offered to send a representative to the Starweaver. The Council team spent 3 days preparing a special chamber. They adjusted it to match what they believed were survivable conditions for a Deathworld species: low gravity, filtered atmosphere, carefully controlled temperature. When the human shuttle approached, the entire crew watched through safety screens. The airlock cycled, and Ambassador Tom Miller walked in. He wasn't wearing a protective suit. The crew gasped. Miller was wearing what he later called a business suit, simple fabric covering most of his body. He carried nothing but a small briefcase. His exposed skin showed no signs of distress in what the Council considered safe conditions. "Hello," he said, smiling and showing his teeth, a gesture that made several crew members flinch. "I'm Tom Miller, Earth's ambassador. Thank you for having me aboard." High Commander Green, safely sealed in his environmental suit, approached cautiously. You're not in pain." "Our atmosphere." Miller looked confused. "Should I be?" "Your air's a bit thin, but nothing I can't handle. Reminds me of visiting Denver back home." The humans, they soon learned, didn't just survive their death world. They thrived in it. Miller explained concepts that horrify the Council members. Sports where humans deliberately exposed themselves to physical stress. Camping where they slept outdoors in their planet's deadly wilderness. Swimming where they submerged themselves in their world's corrosive waters for fun. "We'd love to establish diplomatic relations," Miller said, seemingly unaware of how each casual word shocked his audience. "Earth is eager to join the galactic community." As the meeting concluded, Officer Blue leaned close to his commander. "Sir," he whispered, "what kind of species could evolve to consider such a nightmare world comfortable?" High Commander Green watched Miller return to his shuttle, moving easily despite the thin air that the Council species needed environmental suits to breathe. "I don't know," he replied, "but I think the galaxy just got a lot more interesting." The report they sent to the Galactic Council that day was marked with the highest priority. Its opening line would be quoted in history books for centuries to come. "We have made contact with Deathworlders, and they want to be friends." 3 months after Earth joined the Galactic Council, the emergency alarms blared through the massive space station that served as the Council headquarters. The huge meeting chamber, designed to hold representatives from 200 species, was in chaos. "The Ravagers have destroyed another colony," announced First Speaker White, his crystalline body reflecting the red emergency lights. This time, they left no survivors. The chamber erupted in fearful whispers. The Ravagers had appeared 6 weeks ago, attacking peaceful worlds without warning. They were massive creatures, heavily armored, destroying everything in their path. Ambassador Tom Miller sat quietly in Earth's designated area, watching the panic spread. The other species had given Earth a section with reinforced seating and thicker air, standard accommodations for dangerous species. Now he noticed how many representatives glanced nervously in his direction, as if wondering what the Deathworlders thought of this crisis. "Show us the attack footage," Miller called out, his voice cutting through the chaos. The room fell silent. It was rare for the human to speak at these meetings. The holographic display activated, showing massive Ravager ships descending on a peaceful farming world. The aliens were huge, 3 times the size of humans, with natural armor and multiple limbs. They moved with terrifying speed despite their size. "They're targeting food production centers," Miller observed, making notes on his tablet. "Taking resources, destroying infrastructure. Classic invasion strategy." First Speaker White turned all 5 of his eyes toward the human. You recognize these tactics?" Miller nodded. "Earth's history is full of similar conflicts. Before we united, our nations fought wars like this. The Ravagers are following a predictable pattern." "But how do we stop them?" asked Representative Gray, a floating being of pure energy. "Our weapons barely damage their armor. They're too strong, too fast." Miller stood up, and several nearby representatives instinctively moved away. Even after months of contact, most species were still nervous around humans. "The Ravagers evolved on a high-gravity world, right?" Miller asked. "That's why they're so strong." "Yes," White confirmed. "Their homeworld has 1.8 times standard gravity, almost as harsh as Earth." Miller smiled. "Exactly. But Earth has something their world doesn't. Extreme variations. Our species didn't just evolve to be strong. We evolved to adapt." He walked to the central platform, bringing up images of Earth's military forces. The council members watched in fascination as he showed videos of human soldiers operating in deserts, Arctic conditions, jungles, and mountains. "The Ravagers are strong, but they're inflexible," Miller explained. "They fight the same way every time. Humans, we get creative." "What are you suggesting?" White asked. "Let Earth help. Our military has experience fighting stronger opponents. We've developed tactics, technologies, and strategies specifically for this kind of warfare." The chamber erupted again, but this time in disbelief. The peaceful species of the Council had never considered asking the Deathworlders for military aid. "You would help us?" Gray asked, his energy form flickering with surprise. "Even though most of us still fear you." Miller's expression softened. "That's exactly why we want to help. Earth knows what it's like to be seen as dangerous, to be feared. We don't want that. We want to be allies, friends. Let us prove it." First Speaker White raised his crystalline arms for silence. "The Council will vote. Who supports accepting Earth's military assistance against the Ravagers?" One by one, the representatives voted. Many were still afraid, but fear of the Ravagers outweighed their fear of humans. The vote was unanimous. As the meeting ended, Miller sent a short message to Earth. "Operation Defender is approved. Send the fleet." In orbit around Earth, ships that had been prepared for this moment came to life. Humanity was going to war, not as dreaded Deathworlders, but as protectors of their new galactic family. The Ravagers were about to learn why challenging a Deathworld species was a terrible mistake. Dr. Ray Peters stood before the group of alien scientists at the new Galactic Research Center in Colorado. The facility had been built specifically for this purpose, helping Council species understand humans. Through the reinforced windows, a spring thunderstorm raged outside, making several of the alien visitors tremble. "Don't worry," Ray said with a gentle smile. "The building can withstand much worse than this. In fact, that's what I wanted to show you today." The alien scientists, each in their environmental suits, watched nervously as Ray pulled up weather data on the main screen. Among them was lead researcher Purple, a floating jellyfish-like being who had been the first to volunteer for this Earth assignment. "You see," Ray continued, "humans don't just survive Earth's conditions. We've learned to predict them, understand them, and even use them to our advantage." A loud thunderclap made the aliens jump. Purple's tentacles curled tightly around his translation device. "But Dr. Peters, how can your species remain so calm? The electrical discharges alone contain enough energy to vaporize most council species." Ray walked to the window. "Would you like to see something really interesting? Follow me to the observation deck." The aliens hesitated, but their scientific curiosity won out. They followed Ray up to the transparent dome on the building's roof, protected by energy shields but offering a clear view of the storm. On Earth, Ray explained as lightning split the sky, life evolved alongside these conditions. We learned to harness electricity, to understand weather patterns, to build despite earthquakes and floods. He pulled up more data, showing human activities across different environments. Mountain climbers scaling peaks in thin air. Deep sea explorers handling crushing pressures. Desert expeditions enduring extreme heat. "Impossible," whispered Green, an insectoid scientist. "You're young." They survived these conditions from birth. Ray grinned and brought up videos from a nearby playground. Children were jumping in rain puddles, climbing trees, playing sports in the sun. "Not only survive," Ray said, "but thrive. Watch this." He opened the dome's protective shield just enough to let in the sound and smell of rain. The alien scientists backed away in terror, but then stopped, fascinated, as Ray held out his hand to catch some raindrops. "Water," Purple said in amazement. "You let it touch your bare skin, and it's falling from the sky." "Would anyone like to feel it?" Ray asked. "Through your suits, of course. It's perfectly safe." After several moments of hesitation, Purple floated forward. Ray helped him extend a tentacle into the rain. The alien scientists' colors shifted rapidly, their species' sign of excitement. "It's pleasant," Purple admitted, surprising himself. The next hour was a breakthrough. One by one, the alien scientists carefully experienced their first Earth rain. They took readings, made notes, and most importantly, began to understand. "We've been looking at Earth all wrong," Purple announced as they returned inside. "We saw a deadly world that somehow produced intelligent life. But now I understand. It's because of these conditions, not despite them, that humans are so adaptable." Ray nodded. "Everything that makes Earth dangerous helped shape us. High gravity gave us strong bones and muscles. Variable weather taught us to adapt. Predators made us learn to outthink stronger opponents." "Like the Ravagers," Green chittered thoughtfully. "Exactly," Ray said. "What you see as survival, we see as normal life. That's why we can help against the Ravagers. We're used to facing challenges that seem impossible." As if to emphasize his point, the storm outside began to clear, and a rainbow appeared. The alien scientists crowded the window, amazed by this new phenomenon. "Beautiful," Purple whispered. Perhaps we could come back tomorrow. There's so much more to learn." Ray smiled. Fear was giving way to understanding, just as he'd hoped. "Tomorrow," he said, "I'll show you what we call snow." The aliens didn't know what snow was, but for the first time, they were excited rather than terrified to learn about another deadly aspect of Earth. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council was different this time. No panic, no shouting. Just a heavy silence as they watched the holographic display. The Ravagers had attacked Centauri Prime, one of the oldest and most important Council worlds. Ambassador Tom Miller sat straighter in his reinforced chair as the footage played. The Ravagers had somehow grown stronger, their attacks more brutal. They had adapted to the Council's defensive strategies. First Speaker White's crystalline form had lost its usual bright glow. Centauri Prime's defenses have failed. Their orbital shields are down. 2 million civilians are trapped in the capital city. Our fastest ships are 3 days away, Representative Gray added, his energy form dimming with despair. By then, Earth ships can be there in 6 hours, Miller interrupted. The chamber fell silent. For 2 months, the Council had politely declined Earth's offers of military help, still nervous about involving the Deathworlders. Now, every eye and sensor turned toward Miller. How? First Speaker White asked. The fastest Council ships need 3 days. Miller activated his own display, showing Earth's new military vessels. We designed these ships based on our experience with extreme conditions. They're built to handle stress levels that would tear normal ships apart. We can use gravity wells for acceleration in ways your ships can't risk. But your crews? Purple, the scientific advisor, protested. The Q-forces alone would kill most species. Miller smiled. We're not most species. Earth gravity made us tough. Our pilots trained for these conditions. We can take it. First Speaker White's crystal surface flickered, their version of deep thought. The Council must vote. But first, Ambassador Miller, why? Why help us when we've kept you at arm's length, when we still fear you? Miller stood, his movement causing nearby representatives to flinch out of habit. But he noticed the flinches were smaller now, the fear being replaced by desperate hope. Because that's what humans do, he said simply. We protect those who need help. Yes, we're tough. Yes, we evolved on a world you consider deadly. But we didn't survive Earth by fighting everything. We survived by building communities, by helping each other through disasters, by facing threats together. He looked around the chamber. You fear us because we're strong. Let us show you that strength can be used to protect, not just to destroy. The vote was quick this time. Desperation had a way of overcoming old fears. Miller immediately activated his command console. Earth Fleet Command. This is Ambassador Miller. Operation Shelter is go. Launch all available ships. Primary mission: civilian evacuation of Centauri Prime. Secondary mission: engage Ravager forces. The Council members watched in awe as their displays showed hundreds of Earth ships jumping into action. The vessels were smaller than Council ships, but moved with incredible speed and agility. They're so fast, Purple whispered, his tentacles waving in excitement. The hull stress should tear them apart. Miller's console beeped. First wave of ships will reach Centauri Prime in 5 hours, 43 minutes. Our Marines are equipped with powered armor designed for high-gravity combat. The Ravagers won't expect resistance on their own strength level. What can we do to help? First Speaker White asked, and Miller noted how the question showed a fundamental shift in the Council's attitude. No longer were they asking if the Deathworlders could help. They were asking how they could help the Deathworlders. Have your medical ships ready, Miller replied. We'll need safe places to evacuate civilians. And keep your long-range sensors active. We need to know if more Ravager ships are coming. As the Council burst into coordinated action, Miller sent one final message to Earth. First real test of human Council cooperation is starting. Time to show them what Earth's children can really do. The next few hours would change the galaxy's view of humanity forever. The Deathworlders were going to war, not as monsters to be feared, but as guardians of those who couldn't protect themselves. Commander Jane Wilson stood on the bridge of the Earth battleship Thunder *, watching Centauri Prime grow larger on the main screen. The planet's beautiful purple oceans were mirrored by the dark shapes of Ravager ships in orbit. All hands, battle stations, she ordered. Begin Operation Shelter. The human fleet dropped out of high-speed travel, their ships moving in formations that the Ravagers had never seen before. Council members watching from their evacuation points gasped as the Earth ships performed maneuvers that should have torn them apart. First wave, create a corridor to the surface. Jane commanded. Second wave, begin civilian evacuation. Third wave, with me. We're going Ravager hunting. The Thunder shook as the first Ravager ships opened fire. But unlike the Council ships, Earth vessels were built to take punishment. They had learned from their planet's harshest conditions: earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic explosions. These ships could take a beating. They've never fought Deathworlders before, Jane said to her crew. Let's show them why that was a mistake. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for centuries to come. Earth ships dove and weaved through enemy fire, using maneuvers that made Council observers feel sick just watching. Human pilots, their bodies conditioned by Earth's gravity, endured forces that would have knocked other species unconscious. On the ground, things were even more impressive. Human Marines in powered armor jumped from low-flying ships, their suits designed to handle impacts that would crush normal armor. The Ravagers, used to being the strongest warriors in any battle, found themselves facing enemies just as strong and far more creative. "Ma'am," reported Lieutenant Rick Davis from the surface, "we're finding a pattern. The Ravagers are tough, but they're predictable. They've never had to adapt their tactics before." Jane smiled. That was the key difference. Earth's harsh environment had taught humans to adapt or die. The Ravagers had always relied on brute force alone. "All units," she broadcast, "use Earth combat tactics. They expect direct confrontation. Give them chaos instead." The human forces split into small teams, using their environment in ways the Ravagers couldn't predict. They set traps, used buildings for cover, and employed strategies developed over centuries of Earth warfare. From the Council emergency bunker, First Speaker White watched in amazement as the battle unfolded. "They're driving the Ravagers back," he whispered. "They're actually winning." Purple, who had studied humans on Earth, nodded his jellyfish-like body. "This is why Earth's history made them strong. They learned to outthink stronger opponents, to use their environment, to work together against greater threats." The evacuation ships were loading civilians quickly, protected by the human fleet above. In space, Jane's ships had forced the Ravagers into a defensive position for the first time in the war. "Status report," Jane called out. "Civilian evacuation 80% complete," her officer reported. "Ravager forces in retreat from the ground. Their ships are trying to regroup in high orbit." Jane keyed her command channel. "All ships, execute Operation Thunderstorm." The Earth fleet moved as one, surrounding the Ravager ships in a three-dimensional pattern that confused their targeting systems. It was like watching a deadly dance, with human ships moving in ways that defied normal space combat tactics. When the last civilian transport cleared the atmosphere, Jane gave the final order. "Show them what happens when you threaten innocent people under human protection." The combined firepower of the Earth fleet struck from all directions at once. The Ravager ships, unable to adapt to this new style of warfare, fell one by one. Hours later, as the dust settled, Council ships arrived to find Centauri Prime secured. The Ravagers had been driven off completely, leaving behind wrecked ships and broken armor. "Mission accomplished," Jane reported to Earth Command. "Minimal civilian casualties. Multiple Ravager ships destroyed or captured. Most importantly, we've shown them that they're not invincible anymore." The message was clear across the galaxy. Humanity wasn't just strong enough to survive a death world. They were strong enough to protect others. The age of fearing Deathworlders was ending. The age of human guardianship was beginning. 1 month after the Battle of Centauri Prime, the Galactic Council's main training facility was experiencing something entirely new: a line of alien species waiting to train with humans. Captain Mike Roberts watched from the observation deck as the first group of Council species entered the newly designed training room. The facility had been built in the Rocky Mountains on Earth, specifically modified to help other species adapt to higher gravity conditions. "Are you sure this is safe?" asked Officer Green, a tall insectoid being who had volunteered to be among the first trainees. His environmental suit had been specially reinforced for Earth conditions. Mike nodded. We'll start with just 1.2 times your normal gravity. Baby steps. The room was filled with training equipment designed by Dr. Ray Peters and his team. They had created ways to safely expose other species to Earth-like conditions, gradually building their strength and endurance. Remember, Mike explained to the group, humans didn't become tough overnight. We evolved over millions of years, but we can teach you our techniques, our ways of thinking. In another part of the facility, Ambassador Tom Miller was leading a different kind of session. Council military strategists crowded around a holographic display showing the Battle of Centauri Prime. The key wasn't just our strength, Miller explained. It was our ability to think creatively, to adapt. Every disaster on Earth taught us something new. Purple, now the head of the Council's science division, floated forward. We've analyzed the battle data. Your ships performed maneuvers that our scientists thought impossible. Because you designed ships to avoid stress, Miller replied. We designed ours to handle it. Earth taught us that you can't always avoid danger. Sometimes you have to learn to work with it. The changes weren't just military. In the facility's social areas, humans and aliens were learning to interact without fear. A group of council diplomats was even trying Earth food, carefully modified for their biology. This pizza is fascinating, chirped a bird-like alien, eating from a specially prepared version. The concept of combining different foods together, so simple, yet we never thought of it. In the medical wing, human doctors worked with alien healers, sharing knowledge about adaptation and survival. Earth's medical techniques, developed to handle everything from extreme temperatures to crushing pressures, were revolutionizing council medicine. Your bodies are incredible, said Medical Officer Blue, examining scans of human physiology. The ability to heal broken bones, to adapt to different environments, to fight off infections. We never imagined such resilience was possible. The afternoon brought more surprises. Mike's training group had progressed faster than expected. Officer Green, who had been terrified of Earth's gravity that morning, was now successfully lifting weights in 1.3 times his normal gravity. I feel stronger, Green said with amazement. Not just physically. Knowing we can adapt, that we can become tougher, it changes everything. In the strategy room, Miller received an urgent message. 3 more council worlds had requested Earth's help in building defense forces. The message came with an unprecedented addition. They wanted to send their people to train on Earth itself. A month ago, they were afraid to even visit Earth. Miller told Purple. Now they're volunteering to train here. Purple's colors shifted in what humans had learned was amusement. Fear becomes curiosity. Curiosity becomes understanding. Understanding becomes strength. We're learning more than just combat from humans. As the day ended, Mike gathered all the trainees for a final demonstration. With their new confidence, they requested to see a normal Earth gravity workout. The room watched in fascination as he performed a simple exercise routine. Tomorrow, Mike announced, we'll teach you how humans learn from failure. Because that's another Earth lesson. Falling down isn't defeat. It's just another chance to get stronger. The council members, once terrified of Deathworlders, applauded. They were beginning to understand that Earth's harsh conditions hadn't created monsters. They had created teachers, protectors, and allies. The galaxy was changing, one lesson at a time, and humanity was leading the way. The Great Hall of the United Nations building in New York City had been modified for a historic occasion, the first Galactic Council meeting ever held on Earth. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Centauri Prime, and the galaxy had changed more than anyone could have imagined. Ambassador Tom Miller stood at the entrance, watching delegates from 200 species enter without environmental suits. Dr. Ray Peters' adaptation programs had worked better than anyone expected. Through careful training and gradual exposure, most council species could now handle Earth's conditions for several hours. Quite a change from our first meeting, isn't it? Miller said to first speaker White, who walked in on his crystalline legs rather than floating in a protective bubble. Indeed, White replied, his crystal form glowing brightly. To think we once feared setting foot on this world. Now it feels like coming home. The final victory over the Ravagers had come 3 weeks ago. The combined fleet of human and council ships had cornered the Ravager forces in their home system. But instead of a battle, something unexpected happened. Commander Jane Wilson took the podium to explain. The Ravagers surrendered, she announced to the assembly. Not because we defeated them, though we did, but because we showed them a better way. On the main screen, images appeared of the first Ravager delegation visiting Earth's training facilities. The massive warriors, once seen only as destroyers, were learning alongside other species. They were like us once, Jane continued, afraid of showing weakness, thinking strength meant only fighting. Earth taught us differently. Now we're teaching them. Dr. Peters stepped up next, displaying data from his latest research. The galaxy feared Deathworlders because they didn't understand us. They saw our strength as a threat. But Earth's harshness taught us more than just survival. It taught us community, adaptation, and growth. The statistics were impressive. 50 council worlds now had Earth-style training facilities. Over 10,000 alien citizens had completed basic Earth adaptation courses. Trade between worlds had increased by 300% as species learned to operate in different environments. But our greatest achievement, Miller said, taking the podium, isn't military or scientific. It's this. The screen showed images from across the galaxy. Human teachers working with alien students, mixed species crews on starships, children from different worlds playing together in adapted environments. We've created something new, he continued. A galaxy where strength doesn't mean domination, where being tough doesn't mean being feared. First Speaker White joined him at the podium. The Council hereby officially reclassifies Earth. No longer will it be designated as Deathworld Class 12. From this day forward, Earth is designated as the first Guardian World, a place where strength and wisdom come together. The assembly erupted in applause. Even the Ravager representatives joined in, their mighty hands creating thunderous claps. The ceremony concluded with something that would have been impossible just months ago, a shared meal. The Great Hall transformed into a banquet space where foods from hundreds of worlds, including Earth, were served. Species that once feared each other now sat together, sharing stories and plans for the future. In a quiet moment, Miller found himself on the building's balcony, looking out over New York City. Purple joined him, no longer needing his protective field to float in Earth's atmosphere. "Do you ever wonder," Purple asked, "what would have happened if we hadn't discovered Earth?" Miller watched as ships from across the galaxy moved through the sky above Manhattan. "I think we found each other exactly when we needed to. The galaxy needed to learn that being strong doesn't mean being alone." Below them, a group of alien children played in Central Park, supervised by human and alien teachers together. They were using the playground equipment, each species helping others adapt to Earth's gravity. "That's the real legacy of Earth," Miller said, "not teaching others to be tough, but teaching them that they don't have to be afraid of being who they are." The sun set over New York, its light reflecting off buildings where 100 species now work together. Earth, once feared as a death world, had become exactly what humanity had always hoped to be, not just a survivor, but a protector, a teacher, and a home for all. The age of fear was over. The age of unity had begun.